you are ready for her as well, because I know I am. So, of course, I'm going to let some more people come in the room. But while I'm doing so, I want to say that my name is Mia Hall, and I would like to let you know what Brown Girls Glow Live is all about. So I started Brown Girls Glow because I wanted to teach young women, teenage women, what it means to be a woman, but also just let them know things that I didn't learn in school, right? And so I wanted to start a platform to be able to do that. Now, I started Brown Girls Glow Live because I am a professional producer. I do creative producing. I'm a TV producer, podcast producer, and I have a bunch of web series on youtube.com/at Mia Hall TV. And that's why my name is at Mia Hall TV. So I recently came out with a book. It's called Glow Girl, and it's available for pre-order at miahalltv.com. All right, so now that I have joined you and have given you a little bit about myself, I look forward to bringing on our guest. So, y'all get ready. Austin, Texas is in the house. Y'all put some claps in the chat.
Okay.
Woo!
Awesome.
Us.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing so good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Super excited to have you here today.
Me as well. This is my first co-live. This will be the
Okay,
first
okay,
one ever. So I'm excited.
okay, okay, awesome. Well, I'm so happy to have you here, and I know you have some great things coming up. I know that my community is gonna love you. Your community already loves you, so I'm definitely hoping that everybody gets out of it what they need.
Absolutely. I'm here for it.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. So, how I usually like to start is at the beginning. So, I want to ask you a little bit about your first memory as a young brown girl. So, what do you feel like is your earliest memory of you growing up and you knowing that, you were a young brown girl that glows?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. I have to think about that one. First of all, I'm loving the glasses this evening.
Oh,
I'm
thank
really
you.
loving
Thank you.
both of
Yeah,
ours.
we matching.
Yes.
Listen, I
We're
can't on
feeling
the
it.
computers and on the screens. Unfortunately, I'm getting older, so I can barely. If I don't have my glasses on, I will be pinching the whole time. But thank you.
Listen, I get you, of course. I would say one of my earliest memories of being a little brown girl is I grew up in a predominantly white space. So realizing all the individuals, all the girls and boys around me didn't quite look like me and or my brothers to say that as well, but also just kind of just seeing that my hair was a little bit different, different things that we would like do, like hobbies with me and the kids too, but also like being able that I can glow is that I just had like friends that like me regardless of the difference of color of our skin, or kind of just my mom speaking life into me and who I was, a little brown girl, and also having little brown friends at church, going to like a Baptist church growing up as well. But just being able to be stand firm in that and having family members which were close or far away, speak life into me in that way as well. But then also just being able to grow up and see other Black women on television, like That's So Raven or Tia and Tamara, and being like, we have those things that we can align on. And I'm like, they're Black too, like those little things. So just being
Mhm.
feeling empowered in that. And then kind of just, yeah, my parents really just instilling that in me, to be honest.
I love that. I love that. And yes, I love how transparent you are in talking about that too. Because I saw one of your posts where you were talking about growing up in Colorado and you know what I mean? Like, that not, brown girls not being, like what do I want to say? Not, I don't want to say like the norm, but I want to say maybe like
The
the most
majority.
popular. What'd you say?
Yeah, the
The
majority.
majority, right, right, right. The
Hmm.
majority. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, thankfully, like you said, you had your church, you had your mom, you know what I mean? Like family,
100%.
like listen, like you can glow and
Hmm.
you can do that. So what part of Colorado are you from?
Colorado Springs.
Colorado
So
Springs.
South
Okay.
Florida.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. I actually that's the only part of Colorado that I've been to.
Really?
Yeah, so
It's
I went to
beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing, gorgeous. I went there in February, but it was surprisingly nice. Well, I don't know. Maybe the
Okay.
weather is always kind of nice, but it was a nice season for some reason. I'm probably global warming, but still,
Mm,
you know. But it was nice outside, and of course, it was like so high. And I literally had just come from New Orleans,
okay.
so the only thing, was the altitude got me a little bit. But they were like, just drink
Yes.
your water and you're
Yep.
gonna be okay. Because I was like from below sea level to like way above. So
Yes.
yeah, I was just like, oh, what's happening? But it was gorgeous. I really would love to go back and visit.
You have to, especially it's gotten so much bigger now as well, but the altitude will get you. But
Hmm.
it won't stop the worst. But I love that.
I love it. I love it. Okay, okay. All right. So growing up, you weren't the majority,
Mhm.
but you found your way out. And also, when you were growing up, I think I saw that you used to play sports. Is that true?
Yes, I played soccer.
Yes, that's so awesome. So I used to play sports as well. And
Okay.
honestly, sports was like a big part of my life and how I feel like, I was basically like taught like character and principles and
Yes.
teamwork and all that, all
Yes.
those things, you know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
so I definitely would love to. And also, in New York City, unfortunately, girls participate at half the rate that boys do. I mean, of
Hmm.
course, it might be, like widespread, nationally, but
Gotcha.
that's why the organization that I was a part of, Power Play NYC, emphasized like empowering and educating girls through sports. So
Okay.
whenever I have guests that were former athletes or that are athletes, period,
Hmm.
I like to just ask them, how was that experience for you, and how do you feel like, it shaped you, to who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I played soccer. I started when I was 5, and I actually played all the way through college. So it was a
Wow.
big part of my life. And my dad put me in really, really early, and I would play club ball. Kind of grew up doing that. At the same time, was bouncing from different teams, and I played club for so long. I played through middle school and high school. I really didn't even want to keep playing because it started getting political and all that. But
Oh.
I and like it to be very humble, I was good. So that's one thing that
Mm,
I really liked, and I was really competitive as well. So I feel as though in that one of the many black girls, like the few black girls on the teams, but like one of my
mm.
other fondest memories is I was kind of fast, a little chocolate girl, And I remember a coach yelling like, "Mark the black girl, mark the little black girl," and I was like, "I'm a little black girl, you gotta mark me." But regardless, and it was great because I was just
Wow.
like, "Hey, I don't mind it because you're the one. All of y'all are chasing after me." But regardless.
Mm,
Um, I
mm,
think like just also just being able to stay in kind of just be within teams, teamwork, kind of working with people that maybe that you might not want to work with or playing with people, very like the diversity of it as well, but then also just the endurance of just
mm,
having like that, whether it's anabolic or aerobic endurance, all of that too. And then just having to be mentally tough.
mm,
As a sports individual, you have to be able to take feedback. And that was really easy for me because I'm like, if I'm messing up, if I'm not doing great, I want that feedback. I want to be a better player, which also can
mm,
go into life as well. And then on to play. I went on to play in college, and that was a totally different experience because I did not live be my
mm,
coach, and it was 4 years of just not winning and not having a great time. But I was asking my father, I was like, I want to transfer, I want to leave, I don't want to be here anymore. But he's like, well, you signed up for it, you started it, and you're going to finish it. So basically,
mm,
like keeping my word and sometimes doing things you don't want to do. But then also,
mm,
you probably know as an athlete, 2 days are so not fun, but it's
mm.
just that
Oh,
mental
child.
toughness of getting through it,
Mm-hmm.
and like having like those wins and those losses and all of that. I feel like it's just the emotional roller coaster of being an athlete really does set you up for success as an individual, as an adult, and just growing up. Period. You just like kind of a different mindset, mentality too.
Yes, yes. Wow. Wow, that's a lot. Because yeah, I mean, I was an athlete, but I never played at the collegiate level, you know what I mean? So I feel like that's like a different beast, you know what I mean? And then
Mhm.
also soccer, like that is a full body sport. Like I played, like a pickup game, here and there, but every time I played, I was like, this is such a great workout. And I have
Yeah,
so much respect for soccer players because you really have to be like full body workout. You have to
a
be like fully
hundred
in shape. So for you
percent.
to play from 5 to college, like That's amazing. And
Thank
now I
you.
can see like the way that you carry yourself and your chin up, shoulders back, you know what I mean?
You're
Like,
so sweet.
I know that, your confidence, comes from, God and your mom and your
Mhm.
family. But I know that,
Mhm.
that fitness and the soccer, probably had a
Listen.
contribution to that as well.
100%. But I don't take it back, and none of it I really do. I was really did help me shape me into the woman I am today. So, and I love
Hmm.
knocking girls down. I love it. I'm so competitive, but
Yeah,
regardless.
and I can't believe, well, not that I can't believe it because this is America. But I'm sorry that you had to, unfortunately go through that experience of talking about the, like the little black girl. And I'm sure like, well, not that I'm sure, but I know that potentially you had other racial experiences growing up in
Yes.
Colorado Springs, Colorado. So,
It's
I
okay.
can't even imagine. I can't even
You're
imagine.
good.
So, but I really appreciate that though, because I don't think that I really get to talk to like, many women that are from Colorado.
Hmm.
I grew up in New York City and, many of my friends are on the East Coast and, like I have a friend that lives in Colorado. Well, she used to
Okay.
live in Colorado. I think she lives in South Carolina now, but she lived out there for like a long time after school.
Mhm.
But can you just talk about your high school experience? Because this
Yeah.
podcast is for, high school girls, like we're, of course, for
Mhm.
everybody. So everybody that's joining, thank you for coming on. But our focus is high school girls. So I just want to know, how did you make it through high school?
Yeah. I really loved high school. I'm not gonna lie. Not a lot of people say that they do, but I really liked high school, and I went through a school that was K through 12. So
Okay.
I
Oh,
kind
okay.
of I mean, we'd have like different campuses or whatnot, but the majority of individuals that I made friends with in high school, I knew them from like seventh grade. But
Okay.
I liked high school because it was fun. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit different now. We didn't have iPhones. We had little brick
Mm-hmm.
phones. We didn't have
Uh-huh.
social media, so we were either reading or going to the mall and doing things that kids were doing today. But I also was playing sports there, and that was kind of my identity back then. But at the same time, I feel like I was the type of person that was very open to having friends, like or a good amount of friends, and just always like being nice to people, always wanting to, or I would say I would kind of like bounce around different friends groups because I always loved just connecting with folks. So
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time, it was kind of a smaller high school as well. I graduated with about 130 people, so it
Okay.
was a bit smaller. But
Mm-hmm.
I just tried to find some people that had similar things to me when it came to whether it's music, whether it's sports, because I also played volleyball in high school for about a year. But I thought it was fun because at the same time, I was kind of close with some of the folks in high school too, but I don't feel as, and we wore uniforms, which was a little bit different. So
Mm-hmm.
I know in different public schools, I was jealous of those girls because they could wear whatever they wanted. They could like dress however they wanted to dress, but I was over here wearing khakis and polos and all of that too. But I thought it was great. I did. I kind of got to a point where um, wearing these uniforms or whatnot, I was seeing like all these girls like different body shapes and stuff. And being a black girl, I had the
Mm-hmm.
booty, I had thighs. Especially being a soccer player, I was curvy. But I didn't
Mm-hmm.
quite understand that at the time until I kind of got to like my junior, senior year. My mom's like, "Girl,
Mm-hmm.
you, you're a black girl. You ain't a white girl. You don't look like that, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay."
Mm-hmm.
But kind of stepping into my own and being like, you know what, I can have my own superpower. Like these curves are great. It's not to college when I realized like, no, like all the girls be paying for these things. I'm just kidding. But
Right.
yeah, so it's just like I enjoyed high school. I really did. But I was also very involved with going to like football games and just being out and doing things. Which I know sometimes the phones that we have in our hands with kids these days, it can be a little bit distractive. But I made sure I was going out and doing things and not even being in the house and just living. So
I
yeah,
love that. I love that. Okay, the athlete, the soccer player, more than okay. I
yeah.
love that. They said okay, Messi. I saw them in the comments. but
Good girl.
but yes, Mia Hamm. I'm like, oh no, I know that's like so old.
100%. Mm-hmm.
but
That was my girl back then for sure.
but okay, so all right, so I know you talked about that sports, you know what I mean, really helped you and being able to go outside, go to the games and things like that. Your mom telling you about, your shape and, thankfully, being able to change your perspective and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, can you just talk about the power of your friend group? Like, did you have positive peer pressure? Did you have negative peer pressure? Like, and do you think that, your friend circle was important to like help you even, to go through high school successfully and, be able to go to college?
100%. I think it was big, absolutely. And I was kind of involved with like a couple. I had like a couple best friends, and then I would also be a part of because I also did band. So we had like a
Uh,
group of like band
oh,
girls. Yes, I played the clarinet, which not a lot of people know. I also did
mm,
choir, so then had that as well. But then I feel as though my friends did influence me to do things that were positive. I wasn't drinking back then. We really weren't drinking, and it sounds so crazy, but I had no idea what marijuana was my whole four
mm,
years of high school. So that was not
and in
influenced.
Colorado too, you would think, people like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, I had no idea. I would say like there was a bit of like sheltering. I mean, my parents, they would, if we wanted to know anything, they would tell us,
yeah.
but I just wasn't in the circles to where that was the topic of conversation and what things were doing. I know after high school, kids were doing it, but I think maybe it was just the way that I carried myself or just the ways that the friend groups that I had that weren't doing those things influenced me not to get in those circles or gave people from the outside the perspective like, oh, I'm not going to mess with her. I'm not going to like say anything to her because that's not what she does. I can already
Mhm.
understand that she is a different type of woman or girl at the time to where she's not going to entertain that. So we're not even going to like do that. So the peer pressure side, I don't feel as though I felt too much only just because of the individual I did surround myself with. Um, but I think that was kind of a blessing back then. But I feel like it'd be a little bit different in today's day and age when there's so much
Mhm.
access to everything too. But friends are huge. They really are because you will find those people who won't even think about peer pressuring you and just respect your boundaries and also respect who you are as a person. Yeah.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask, before I want to like progress, through your journey, to where you
Mhm.
are today, but I would like
Absolutely.
to ask where faith came in. I know that you said, you grew up in a, well, I don't know if you said you grew up in the church, but I remember you talking about church influences.
Hmm.
And so when do you feel like you personally like met God?
Mm, that's a great question. That's a great question. So yes, I grew up in the church,
Okay.
um, or not even Southern, just a Baptist church. And when did I meet God? My mom would always play spirituals and gospel music in the house, and I always felt the spirit of God. So I always knew. I can't really think of specific examples when I was young, when I was growing up, to where I saw God and I genuinely felt Him. But since I had that foundation, that's kind of what I would go off of. I also went to a small college in South Dakota, out of all places. And it was a Baptist school as well. I don't know why I'm doing that, but anyways, Baptist school as well. So I also had that faith based background too. But when did I like really have an encounter with God? That's such a great question. That's such a great question. Oh man, wow. You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. When I was a junior, no, no, no. I think it was a senior. Or maybe I was a junior. I'm trying to remember. When I was 21,
Mm,
21.
okay.
Basically my whole entire life, I grew up abstaining
Okay.
from sex, all of that, and
Okay.
saving myself for marriage. When I
Hmm.
was 21, I unfortunately lost my virginity, and it was not consensual. And
Okay. Sorry to hear that.
that's it is, thank you. It is all right. And by the grace of God, it was wild because that was like kind of some of my identity. And it was something that
Mm,
I was waiting for and I was keeping sacred between God and I. But when that had
mm,
happened, not even, it was like 24 hours, maybe 48 hours. And my heart was so heavy. I was broken. There was so much that was
yeah.
going on in my mind. But not even 48 hours after that, I felt like immediate peace, like it, all the burden, all of the shame, all of the everything just lifted off of me. It felt like
Whoa.
it felt like magic. It was so wild. And I could not explain it because I was praying for hours, like in my bed, like, God, I'm so
Mm,
sorry. This is supposed to be for you. All of these things. And it was
mm,
just gone. It was gone. And I no longer
mm.
felt the heaviness. I no longer felt the guilt, the shame, all of that. And I kind of just, it just lifted. So in
Mm,
college is when I had that experience at 21 years old. Even though I knew he was there, even though I was thanking him and saying all these things throughout my whole entire life, but that is when I was shooketh and feeling like, damn, like God is with me. God can heal. God can do this. I didn't have to wait years. I waited. It was days. So that was really,
mm,
really powerful for me to experience. And then also be like, if anything ever in life, go back and remember that exact experience when God came through at one of my darkest times to bring me, kind of level me back out, if that makes sense. So a little
yeah.
deep, but like it's just the power, the sheer power when I was in my lowest of lows, where He came and rescued me and said, like, child, you are okay. I still love you. I still care for you. And this is not your story. And you are going to be okay. So that was crazy. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that was a heavy moment, and thank you for being, transparent. That's why I like you because I saw your vision. I was like, yeah, she tells the real. But I just want to hold space for you to, like if you need some tissue or anything, you know
Oh
what I mean,
no.
and some
I'm
comfort,
good.
and you know
I'm
what I mean. Like
good.
I am so sorry to hear that, especially. I mean, not even like nobody, you know what I mean, should go through that, but just mentally, I can only imagine you. You know what I mean? Like as this person that is a young woman, you're trying to abstain yourself, and then you have to go through that unfortunate experience, which nobody should ever go through at all. But just trying to put your experience in context of
100%.
how devastating that must be. But
Yeah.
so I just want to
Mhm.
acknowledge
Oh my
that.
gosh, you are a okay. Thank you so much. But at the same time, the beauty of it is God gave me the grace with time to forgive him. Even
Mm,
even after a couple days, I forgave him. I
mm,
washed my hands clean. And maybe it took a little bit of time, but like it was that. So like I don't know no longer. I feel as though that can be, and I thank you so much for your comment, a testimony for other women, because another
mm,
thing that I didn't realize was it
mm,
happens more than I had even known. So just
mm,
being able
mm,
to just share God's grace in that space. But I appreciate you for holding space. But God's
mm,
really,
mm.
really done so much work in me to where I can be empowered by the my testimony.
Yes, amen, amen. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad that he turned your beauty. He traded your
He
beauty for
did.
ashes, right?
He
I mean,
sure.
wait.
I know
You
what you
traded it.
mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, whoa, man, get your scriptures right. I'm like, wait, but if he traded me for that, but I know it. Yeah, my
I know what
goodness.
you mean.
Yeah, okay, wow. So that happened in college. I mean, wow, you have such a fascinating. I mean, like not that, but just that,
What you mean?
just going back to like you saying that you went to school in South Dakota. And of course, like I don't want to take up too much of your time. I feel
No,
like I
you're
have like
fine.
so, you know what I mean, like so many questions now and some more coming up.
Please go ahead.
Because
What
you're
a
so much
flow.
more than than like what you present and things like that. But I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to meet you. So
Thank
glad
you. Me
of everything that
too.
you share. But I do want to go. So I said I was going to progress through your time, and thank you for telling me about where your faith journey really was like rocked and shook, and then kind
Mm-hmm.
of came back.
Busted wide
Um,
open. Mm-hmm.
so
Cool.
I do want to know though, because I don't know
Ask
like
away.
anyone that went to school in Dakota, let alone people that, are from South Dakota, even lived in South Dakota. So
100%.
what prompted that? Because I know you did play sports and you said that you played in college. So did you get like a scholarship, and was this like something that was on your list? Like how did that work?
Yes. So at the time, I no longer wanted to stay in Colorado. I was over Colorado. The state schools were the only options, and I was like, no. So my father said, if you get some type of scholarship, then you can leave. And so we sent game film out the last couple months of the semester, very last minute, and the Lord kind of opened up a school out in South Dakota, and we went to go and visit. And I'm like, all right, cool, bet. As long as I'm getting out of Colorado, I don't care. And
You
I and
didn't
I
get
had
real.
been.
You was like, if I'm out of Colorado, I'm out.
Yes. Now, meanwhile, I didn't realize you registered in South Dakota, but regardless. So that's what brought me out there. I got a soccer scholarship, and then that's when I had to play. Why I played out there, but specifically, that's really what it was. It was either that or another school in Iowa, and that wasn't quite. It didn't quite align, but I was really looking for. So ended up picking South Dakota, and stayed there
Okay.
for 5 years.
Okay. Okay, and then okay, so you did South Dakota. You still had your I'm sure you still have friends back home, but your college experience, as a young brown girl, that,
Mhm.
was also playing sports. How What was your biggest challenge in school and how did you overcome it? I
Mhm.
mean, other than, of course, you just told us about probably your biggest
For
challenge, but
sure. But
challenge, yeah.
I would say my biggest challenge was really just getting through playing soccer or having a commitment, moving through a commitment that I did not want to move through.
Right, you
Um,
just said that.
that, but then also juggling my sports and my academics, and then still wanting to have fun at the same time, because that's what college is for. Like you're leaving high school, you're doing things that you're like exposed to things, or you're just like meeting people, and you're free in a sense. So I guess trying to find my own individuality. I think also too. I think just trying to or making friends outside of my soccer team. Because sometimes when you do go, when you're there early and you're meeting people of different sports, you're kind of a bit secluded because all you're really doing is playing soccer. But trying to branch out and make the time for friends outside of that, and try and like just go to different functions or different like school events to meet different people. I feel like was kind of hard because I was just kind of in my soccer clique. I wish I would. There's a different word, but just
Mm-hmm.
juggling all three. Because I know soccer would always be there and making sure I keep my grades up. Because school was not my strong suit. It really,
Mm-hmm.
really wasn't. If I'm being very honest, um,
Mm-hmm.
I majored in exercise science. I
Mm.
wanted to go to PA school, and that's why I had to make sure my grades were all right because I wanted to, or like physician assistant school.
Okay, okay, okay. You saw me like
Yeah,
calculating, like, wait, I was
yeah.
like,
You
I
are
knew it was
just
something with
fine.
the physical or something. Okay.
No, you're a good girl.
Mhm.
And I took like the biology and like the organic chemistry. Like I feel like the academics were kind of tough, but realizing like, hey, girl, you got to ask for help if you need some tutoring, if you need all of this, you got to make sure you get through this, or you're not going to lose whether it's playing time or lose like your scholarship. So kind of like juggling that in a sense, the responsibility of keeping my scholarship, but also showing up academically, and then having life outside of that. I feel like was like my biggest juggle, but I made it work because technically, again, as an athlete, you kind of just one either make it work or you figure out and try and figure out where like the space is that you can ask for help, and then just do the best that you can. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what you did. That's what you did.
I
Okay.
had to.
You made it, girl. You made it. Okay, so you went to you did went through high school, went through
Mhm.
college. Even though you know what I mean, like it was hard to keep on playing soccer, you did it. You made that commitment. You
I
stuck to
do
your
it.
commitment.
Hmm.
I want to know because I know we are going to talk about demystifying manifestation, and
Yeah,
anybody that is on the live,
sure.
coming to learn, about demystifying manifestation, we are getting there. I promise. Um, and so I want to know, I don't know when it started for you, but when do you feel like you started to think about manifestation, even in the
Mhm.
sense, of, biblically, like,
Yeah.
when do you remember saying, you know what, I have to change my mindset because we know that's a big part of it anyway. And, when did you start to say, you know what, I'm going to like write down my goals or, do a vision board or, when did manifestation start for you?
Honestly, I would say in the last year and a half, it was
Mm,
it was very recently. I
mm,
started seeing creators on Instagram and TikTok talking about it, and I never really put too much stake into it because they would really be talking about the universe and like
right. It's like,
crystals, and it
who's
was
the
very kind
universe?
of like intertwined with like witchcraft, and I'm like, that's
Mm,
just not. I don't identify with that. That's like not my faith. Like I don't.
hmm.
I'm not quite sure. But then I came
Right.
across a creator on Instagram, and she was talking about manifestation itself, and it was actually her podcast, and how like how we what we speak is important, what we see, what we write, all these things. And I would see all of her thousands of testimonials about all this.
Mm,
I'm like, how are all these people like? I'm not going to say they're not all believers, but I'm like, how
yeah.
are these people getting these results? And they're like, no, they don't even want to touch God with a 10-foot pole. Like, make it make sense. So,
Mm,
and like what they're teaching, and like they're seeing progress. So I'm like, what? And I believe God, and I'm still waiting on God for these things. Like, what's going on? So
mm.
I started kind of dabbling a little bit, and in like the very like simple way.
Okay.
And I was for a little moment, I was kind of like, maybe not. Like, this isn't for me. And I would kind of leave for a little bit. I'd stop like consuming that content, and then for some reason, God would always bring me right back. Whether it was somebody I met in a restaurant, we just started talking about like the law of attraction, or
Mm,
something like, yeah, like I was thinking talking to this woman had said to me once, like, I was talking to God and we'd been manifesting this for a while. And I was like, she just used the N word
My
and the G
God.
word in one sentence. Like, what? And then
The
I had
M
like,
word, I love it.
listen, and I was like scrolling on TikTok, and there's this woman that had said that there is a correlation. Like, what is she say? It's like New Age manifestation is a ripoff of what the Bible is saying about how to renew your mind. And I was like,
Mm,
what, God? So then
mm,
I was just like, okay, I'm being hard headed. Maybe there is some connection, and there definitely was. Um, God tells us to do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds.
mhm,
Or as a man thinketh, so is he. And different ways to like put our sights on peace, on hope, on all these things. And that's kind of when I started busting it open. I'm like, there's some truth to this, and trying to
mm,
aligning different like. And it's crazy because another thing that can turn people off is like the universal laws. But
mhm,
honestly, like the universal laws are laws that govern the world. Like I like to make this joke like gravity is a universal law and we know it because things be falling. And I'm not talking about
mhm,
just AirPods, but things on our bodies, you know?
uh-huh,
So if
right.
that's true, then other ones are true as well. And there's got to be, and there's also neuroscience that back it up as too. But it
Mm,
really just came down to recognizing like your source. Like, what is your source? Some
mm,
people's source is the universe, but the universe never did anything for me because God created the universe. So if you go one
exactly.
step up, it's God. So that's when I really started understanding like, okay, like I have the power. I have the power within myself, within my heart, within my mind to start transforming my reality because if you really think about it, a lot of us kind of focus on things that are negative. We focus on things that don't serve us. We focus on things that allow us to believe that God is not in control. So, what if we switch that? And what if we started expecting different things? What if we started acting as if we're that person, just like God calls us to? And like seeing how that works. And like those principles people are doing without even having God as his source, their source and getting those results. But what if you had God as your source? And you got the results and then some because that's the favor of God when you're walking in how he created us to live. So
Hmm.
that's kind of like a long-winded answer, but that's kind of how I got to the whole manifestation side of things.
Okay, so it was just like about a year ago, you said, or a year or so. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
You know what? When you say that, just a quick aside, but it's related. Like when you talk about that, and thank you for even, sharing your journey. I know somebody said that on FaceTime to you, but
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your journey on that. But you make me think about just a practical biblical example
Hmm.
of the woman who had the pots, right?
Hmm.
And with I'm not sure if it was Elijah or Elisha. I think it was Elisha.
Hmm.
And he told her, that like she was like, me and my son, we have no food, we're we want something to eat. And he was like, go and get your pots. You know what I mean? Like put them out. Put as many,
Yes.
as you can. And
Yes.
like your pots are going to be filled. So I feel like that's, you know what I mean? Like she wasn't like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
gonna manifest this, you know what I mean? But
Yes.
like, but she had faith in, and she had to put out the pot. You know what I mean? So I feel like
Absolutely.
that's what people are like. Oh, I'm gonna make a parking space. Like I haven't read The Secret. I'll say that, but like
That's a good one.
but yeah, but I think that in the Bible we see stories like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Absolutely.
I definitely think that that could be demystified, y'all.
Hmm.
Manifestation, and I think that, well, I will say that another thing, and you touched on this pretty much, is that the people, why people and Christians are rejecting manifestation in the worldly sense, I think, is because
Hmm.
they're just like, people are taking God away from it.
Hmm.
Nikki, what up? What up? Lions behavior. You love Nikki. Um, but um, but yeah, people are taking God out of it. People are taking Jesus out of it. You know what I mean? And it's
Hmm.
like, no, like these things are in the Bible. You know what I mean? And when they
Yeah.
try to erase him from it, then we're like, no, we don't want that. But
Yeah.
we're like, no, we are with the of the mind of God can do exceedingly abundantly above and beyond all we can ever think
Amen.
or imagine. So
Amen.
and
Amen.
yeah, and so I'm with you on that. But I'm so surprised
Amen.
that it's only like a year ago, because I feel like you just seem like you always, not always, but let's say like after college, you seem like it was there
For
for a long time.
sure. Well, also when I moved to Austin, I was working for a tech company,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when I I worked for them for about 4 years. And kind
Okay.
of after that, when I was kind of doing my thing in Austin and walking around listening to podcasts or whatnot, I kind of got on a little more of a personal development journey and like
Hmm.
investing in kind of listening and learning. And that's kind of when I came around it and came about it and started doing my research and all of that too. But I feel like we could even, if we could, I mean, manifestation is definitely a word, but I would even say it, go as far as calling it like expectation. Like literally
Yeah,
straight,
you're
straight up
expecting.
expectation, you know?
Exactly.
And not even expecting
The
and
E
just
word.
like the hope, but just like expecting and knowing, you know?
Mm.
Yeah, or just like yeah, it's like the magic of knowing.
Mm,
But
mm,
yeah,
mm.
hmm
Yes, but knowing, right, knowing that, God is going to provide because his word says it, and knowing that, he spoke the whole world into existence. You know what I mean? Like
you
he
sure
spoke
did.
words and, the land came and
Hmm.
water came and,
Yes,
and we came,
yes,
you know what I mean? So,
amen. Yes.
so yeah, it's expecting it,
Hmm.
in our mind and it being manifest.
Amen.
Okay, so you talked about I also just want to quickly,
Yeah.
talk about how you started how you came into this journey. So you kind of touched on it, but I kind of want you to explain. So from South Dakota,
Yes.
right? Where did you go after that? And then how did you get to Austin? And
Hey,
yeah.
great questions. Okay, so after South Dakota, I moved home to
Okay.
Colorado Springs. And
Okay.
then a year after, I moved to Denver, Colorado. Because the
Okay.
Springs is my hometown. I wasn't finna be there too long. I want to spread my
Okay.
wings and go to like the big city of Denver. So I moved to Denver. I was
Mhm.
there for 4 years. And that's when I started working in talent acquisition, HR. And then
Mm.
after being in Denver, and I love Denver, Denver's an amazing city, but I was also heavily drowning in milk out there. And Denver,
Mm.
like it's beautiful, the views and everything, but there's not much culture. There's not much like food. There's not really much of a scene to say. And
Mm.
like at the time, I was like, there's no men out here either. So I was looking for something different. So
Yeah.
my aunt had talked about her at the time. She's like, well, I was talking about kind of like Texas or figuring out ways to move or just places to go, and I had no idea where to go. But her partner at the time had mentioned that I was thinking about Houston because there's a lot of us there. But he
Uh-huh.
had mentioned, he's like, well, especially being a tech gal, Austin's like kind of like the new Silicon Valley. And
Right.
maybe you should think about moving there because you have some options if you leave your job and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, maybe Austin. And I kind of threw it out there to my family a little bit. And they're like, maybe. So I asked God, I was like, all right, God, if I'm supposed to move to Austin, Texas, I'm going to need three signs. Because one,
Wow.
I'm hard headed. Two, I'm hard headed. And three, I'm hard headed. So it was funny because he sent me those three signs. One of
Wow.
them was my mom sent me a text message. She normally sends me links that don't really work, but this one worked. It was a
Shout out to
Netflix.
mom dudes,
Shout
man.
out to mama. I know she's on here. Um, it was a 20 somethings Austin show on Netflix. It was like a link to go watch the show. So I watched it.
Oh,
I was like, all
okay.
right, cool. What a coincidence. And then the second one, I was taking out my hair. You know how us girls do when we have a full braids, gotta get a couple hours ready, take them out.
Yes.
So I was taking them out, and the very first, I turned on Netflix again. How God works with Netflix, I don't know. I turned it on, like that little shuffle, that shuffle button, and it took me to an episode of Queer Eye. Do you know what
Okay.
Queer Eye is?
Yeah, the show,
So
right?
yes, and it was like the season opener, and they like are driving into this big old city, and they're like, "We're riding into the beautiful city of Austin, Texas," and I was like, "No way! Like,
Not on the
absolutely not,
shuffle.
absolutely not." I was like, "Okay, I told you I'm
Okay.
hard headed, so I'm just gonna ignore that one." So, anyways,
Thank you.
the third one was when my brother wanted to go to a interpretive art show, and I did not want to go. I just didn't want to go. So my mom was like, just go, spend some time with him. He was living in the Springs at the time, and I was like, I'll just go. So we go, and it was actually a faith-based interpretive art show, and I didn't realize it because my brother was kind of, I didn't know what kind of waters he had been in for a little bit, but regardless,
Okay.
he the opener was talking about how he had gone to so many cities all around the world, and he loved Denver, and he would move his family here, but he would highly first recommend his hometown city of Austin, Texas. And my brother and I were like,
Oh, like
it was
what?
crazy.
What?
So
That's wild.
long story short, I moved to Austin about 9 months later. I say, yeah, 9 months
Wow.
later. I came and visited for about over the summer for about two
Okay.
days, 3 days. And
Okay.
then I moved here. And I also didn't know anybody when I moved here. I just moved here all
Mm,
alone. Kind of a fresh start, but I just wanted that. I felt very
mm,
stagnant in Denver and I wanted something new. And God said, gave me
mm.
3 signs. So I'm like, I can't not move, you know?
Right. You done gave me the fleece was dry, the land was wet, the lamb was dry, the fleece was wet. How many more signs am I gonna get, Gideon? For real.
A
Okay,
100%. But
okay.
that's it.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
Okay, I love that. So that
Crazy.
was that 4 years ago or that was before then? Like what year was that? Did
That
you
was
resign?
2023.
Okay, 2023. Okay,
Maybe it was
okay, so about 2
2020.
years ago.
Yeah, about 2 years ago. So it'll be my second, actually, oh my gosh, it was 2022. It'll be my 3 year anniversary in October.
Okay, okay, nice.
Yeah. So 3 years ago
Nice.
almost. Hmm.
Okay, 3 years ago. Okay. All right. All right. So 3 years ago, and you're still working in tech.
Oh,
But
actually,
then,
not working in tech anymore.
oh, okay. Tell me
But
about
I,
that.
so I left in November. And it was interesting because I had been
After
like,
you got here?
not really. So it was actually last November. So yeah,
Oh, oh,
technically.
last
So
November. Got
last
it. Got it.
November, yes. So I moved here 2022 of um 2022 in October, and then 2024 of November is when I left my job. Um, and to kind of give you a little backstory too, probably answer your next question, but I started doing digital marketing at the beginning of last year. So I was working at my tech job, and then that's when I kind of started opening up my social page because I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. I need to start, like, people
Mm,
are making money online. Like, how do I learn how to do that? And I started with reselling a digital marketing course that kind of teaches you how to build your own business. So
mm,
all of last year, I spent like building up my following, and I my goal, my basically my niche at the time was making money online, but it was really just like building kingdom wealth and also like demystifying the what people say about wealth and like being a
mm.
believer and how money is evil, but actually no, money is not evil. It's the root of all evil, and the love for money is the root of all evil. But
Right.
also God gives us the power to create and gain and obtain wealth through Deuteronomy 8:18. So kind of
Mm,
just empowering women, empowering people that God wants us to prosper. And so as long as our
mm,
heart is right, as long as we are following His calling, He doesn't want us to suffer. He doesn't want us to be in lack. He doesn't want any of that. So when I was reselling those courses, I was helping women build their own businesses. And I got to a point, God was telling me, I would say in the fall of last year, like, all right, my child, it might be time for you to switch things up. It might be time for you to like do your own thing. And I was
uh,
like, no, no,
woo.
no.
Oh, those knocks, boy. When God knock at your door, you be like, but Lord, that
I
check
know.
is making
I
me.
know. And you're just like,
Listen.
mm-mm. I didn't hear him. And then you just have to hear him after a while. So that's kind of when I started moving towards the manifestation side of things and like going to like the biblical side of things on that front. But that's kind of how that all started. And then in November, I had been scripting, which is a kind of like a manifestation technique of writing things down,
Mm-hmm.
and like saying them and just writing them. Because in Habakkuk 2:2, it says, write your vision and make it plain. So
Mm-hmm.
God wants us to write our goals and say them and have them on paper. So then He
Mm,
knows, and now we know like what we want and we're manifesting for our lives. So I had
mm.
written, I will leave my job by the end of 2024. And I wrote that for a month and then kind of forgot about it. And then
Girl.
the Lord done snatched me out of that thing. And it was interesting because it was kind of weird how it happened. I didn't love how everything panned out with like my boss and different things that people were saying and whatever, but it needed to happen the way that it was supposed to happen because when I left, I was able to obtain a severance to
Mm.
keep me afloat for 3, 4 months
Okay.
and figure out things with my business or whatnot too. So when God says it's time, it's time. Now I'm like now finally realizing like, okay, God, this is where you want me to take this. This is where I'm gonna
Mm.
move. But that's kind of how I got into digital marketing and within content creation and doing things within my platform. And no longer have that job. So now it's like full-time entrepreneurship and learning all the ins and outs and sideways and backwards and ups and downs of that. But it's God's plan. It's God's plan. So I'm here for the ride. It's been a bumpy one, but it's all for His glory, you know. We're
I
figuring it out.
love it. I love that. I love that. Okay, okay. So you were scripting,
Hmm.
which is writing down your affirmations. All right. So lesson
Hmm.
for anybody that's taking notes on demystifying manifestation. Habakkuk
Hmm.
2:2 talks about write the vision and make it plain that those who
Hmm.
see it may run with it.
Amen.
And so this is something that God encourages,
Hmm.
and you wrote I will leave my job in 2024. I love that. I'm going to ask because
Hmm.
one Cameron
Okay.
Dipset. No, I don't know if he's at Dipset anymore, but anyway, has a song and it's called Mr. Me Too.
Mr. Me
And
Too.
yes, and in this song, this is a long way to get to it, and I'm gonna wrap it up by 8 o'clock. I'm so sad
Yeah,
because I'm like
girl.
I could talk to you for 2 hours.
We can do it
Um,
again. No, just kidding.
but he has a song called Mr. Me Too,
Okay.
and it's just talking about people that like every time you say something, they got to be like, oh, it's me too, oh, me too, me too, me too. So
Hmm.
I agree with that because I don't appreciate when people say, like, oh, me too, me too. It's like, dang, I got kids. Oh, me too, me too. Like, I hate. Sorry to not to play with that because unfortunately, people do. But
You're
but if it's like, oh, I got water. Oh, me too. It's like, dang, like just let me have my water. So that's number one.
That's so
Number
funny.
two is, but I saw something online
Hmm.
somewhere. Some
Hmm.
psychologist, I think, was talking about like, the way to do that, especially in a space where somebody is like sharing, is just to ask, like, do I have permission to share a similar experience? So I want to ask you for permission. Do I have permission to share a similar experience?
Absolutely.
Thank you. But this is
You're welcome.
in the vein of not trying to be Mrs. Me Too.
You're
Um,
good.
and so we're talking about demystifying manifestation and
Mhm.
scripting, and I love that you gave us a tool, and I know that you have more tools to give us. We're going to get to that as well. But it's so funny because so in 2020, oh gosh, what year is it?
I know they all mesh
15.
together.
They all
Okay.
meshed together. In 2015, I had prayed like all year,
Hmm.
Lord, I want to, have a full-time job in media. I want to work full time in media. I believe in 2014, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in 2014 is when Mike Brown had gotten killed, and then it was everything with Black Lives Matter, and they were putting everything on. What's up, Booger?
Yeah.
Speaking of media, but everything, all these negative images of Black people. Like some people put Mike Brown in his graduation cap, and of course, some people put him in his baggy jeans, whatever, whatever. And it's like,
Hmm.
man, this young man just graduated from high school. He wasn't, you know what I mean? He wasn't trying
Yeah.
to, beat up this cop or whatever. And this cop stood over him and shot him. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
anyway, got me very upset. And I said, the way I'm
Yeah.
going to fight for social justice is through
Hmm.
media. So,
Hmm.
all year 2015, I'm praying. I'm like, Lord, I pray that I would get, a full-time job in media.
Yeah.
I even wrote my resignation letter, girl,
Oh my
because God
God.
was speaking to me,
Oh
like you
my
said, you know what I
God.
mean? Like, all right, like it's almost time, it's almost time. I wrote my
Wow.
resignation letter, but I did not leave because that check was looking too good. You know what I mean? The benefits, the check. But I was like, Lord,
Yeah.
I don't have a media job lined up. Like, what do you
Hmm.
want me to just jump? No parachute, whatever. So
Hmm.
anyway, so at the top of 2016,
Okay.
um, January, I think Martin Luther King Day fell on like January 19th. I
Okay.
came back January 20th and they called me into that HR office, girl. Yes, they did. They said we are restructuring,
Um,
and yeah, I had to go, unfortunately. And this was like a dream
wow.
job. I feel like I was speaking that job into existence because actually in the job
Mhm.
before that, I used to um, walk by it on my way to work. And I used to say at Barclays Center in New York.
Oh,
And I used to walk by it
cool.
on my way to work. Like,
Mhm.
I'm going to work there one day. I'm going to work there one day. But
Mm.
in 27, in 20, whatever, 16, they was like,
Yeah.
no, you're not. So, I was upset, but I knew that all year, and I even wrote my resignation letter,
That's
that,
crazy.
I was going to so anyway,
Yeah.
but then I
Yeah.
ended up working at NBC BLK, and I was working at 30 Rockefeller Center.
Okay. Oh
So
my
yeah, I got to report for
God.
NBC News. Yeah, so it was, it all turned out good. But
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
y'all gotta. I think people can take away that lesson that when God speaks to
Listen.
you, listen
Mm-hmm.
and write things
Mm-hmm.
down. Script it. Like,
It's the
God said,
thing.
write the vision and make it plain.
100%. And I got a question for you. So your eyes were on Barclays, but God's eyes were on MSNBC.
Well, yeah. So, like 3 years. So I worked at Barclays Center for 3.5 years.
Okay.
So yeah. So I was able my eyes was on Barclays in 20,
Gotcha.
whenever, you know what I mean, 2010.
Gotcha.
I did that for two
Okay.
years. I looked at it for two
Gotcha.
years. Yeah, and then worked there for 3.5 years. But then, once
Wow.
that Mike Brown situation, I said I got to work in media. I have to work like,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
impacting how people see Black people, because y'all are
Yeah.
not gonna just act like we're just. Come on, we got
Mm-hmm.
people that lived in Colorado and went to school in South Dakota. Everybody is not a drug dealer or, prostitute, and not, saying anything,
Yes,
of
for
course,
sure.
against
For
the
sure.
act, but not against the people. But you know what I'm saying? Like, dang,
Absolutely.
we are diverse.
Okay. We are,
Yeah.
absolutely. But it's important. It really is. It's like getting the word out, just being intentional with your goals, with your wants and needs and desires, because what's on your heart, like God put it there for a reason, because it might not be for you. 9 times out of 10,
Mm-hmm.
it isn't for you. It's for somebody else, for you to impact
Mm,
other people's lives, for you
mm,
to potentially serve others, for you to potentially obtain a certain amount of status or a certain amount of wealth to be able to impact lives around the world. Like so many things that can be done all through your obedience and just
mm-hmm.
you believing in your dreams and writing them down. But yeah,
And writing
I
them
love that.
down.
I love that though.
Yes,
So I love hearing those
yes.
testimonies because it's literally scripture in action.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I love it. Okay, quick question that I like to ask everybody.
Mhm.
What is one piece of advice that you would give your 16-year-old self?
Um, One piece of advice that I give my 16-year-old self. That's a really great question. I just started driving, going around with burned CDs in the car, burning them off iTunes. I'm 22.
A time.
Yes. Oh, I would probably go back and tell her to enjoy every inch of time. Do not
Mm,
rush to grow
mm.
up because before you know it, you're going to be paying bills you don't want to pay.
Listen.
And also, you're not going to be able to be as young as you are or as fit as you are. Like, love your body, like every single inch of it. So I'll
Mm.
even look back at pictures and be like, I thought I was thick back then. I wasn't thick.
Like, I
I
wasn't
thought
even
that was
thick. I wasn't even
this
slim
is thick. Yes.
thick.
So to like just be kind to yourself, take advantage of the time that you have, and yeah, go slow. Just go slower. There's no rush to grow up.
Mm,
There's no rush to grow up. You will get here. You're
mm.
not missing out on the bars, and yeah, just focus on your friends.
I
So
love
yeah,
that. I love that. Okay,
yeah,
thank you, thank you.
of
And that
course.
you actually just confirmed something, because my word for this month is slowing.
Mm.
Yeah, I just learned about the spiritual discipline of slowing.
Hmm.
I'd heard of Sabbath, but I hadn't heard of like it put in the language of slowing. So you just
Hmm.
confirm, and I just literally put in one of our church media team group chats that's my word for like the Lenten season too.
I
So
love that.
yeah, look at you,
I
you just
love
in the spirit,
that.
girl. You just in
Listen,
the
I
spirit, girl.
am. And also, I'll tell you one thing. I
Uh-huh.
heard this morning a man was saying, because I guess there's this thing out here how there's a lot of women, and am guilty of this, but being in the majority of my life, maybe even because I'm an athlete and different things, like being in my masculine energy. Um,
Mm,
and I really, in full transparency, worked on coming into my feminine energy and
mm-hmm,
just like the feminine side of me.
mm,
And one of the things that this man had said is one tall tale sign of feminine energy, but things that women with high feminine energy carry is the ability to slow down, the ability to
mm,
be able to take things, kind of like slow down the pace. You know, when you are
mm,
in that masculine, when you're in that like go getter, that boss babe type of, we're always in like we're in that masculine energy because we're in control and we're doing these things. But sometimes, even for ourselves, even for our nervous systems, it's
mm,
so good to just slow it down, kind of like, and that's another easy way of helping remain present because we're
mm,
always looking into like what we haven't done or what we could do or like all like that's where anxiety comes from, just like thinking about
mm-hmm,
just like that what if. But at the same time, being present is what God wants us to be. And
mm-hmm,
there's no rush. Like, we're not brain surgeons. You and I are
mm-hmm.
not brain surgeons.
We're
Maybe the people
not.
that are around you, I don't know if you have any brain surgeons in your friend group, but it's just like, it's this slowing is also so feminine. or
Yeah.
even for people in general. So I'm going to be leaning into that as well. I think that was confirmation for me too.
I love
Yeah.
that.
And be
I love.
still sometimes. Just
Yes.
be still and listen. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Okay. Well, you
Yeah.
have some exciting things coming up. So
Mm,
please, tell us what you have coming up, and tell us, how my community, too, and your community, of course,
for
but how
sure.
we can support you.
Absolutely. I would say the biggest support is just prayer. And I will
Mm,
be praying for you and your community too. I
thank
don't really
you.
know like tangible ways, but one thing I am working on is the Lord kind of downloaded to me. Manifestation is amazing and trying to understand those principles and coming into like a more unexpected season for ourselves and living the life God wants us to live. But sometimes a lot of it or all of it starts in the mind. So I've had a lot of friends that deal with high stress and high anxiety and high
Mm,
like mental capacities they're trying to get through. And listen, especially with the state of this world, there's so much going on. There's so much going on. But
um,
the another reason I think another way of Romans 12:2 when it says do not conform to the patterns of this world but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. When you're another confirmation of this world is being able to be triggered, being able to be impressed, being able to be kind of influenced. And like we're human, it's going to happen. But how do we cultivate peace? How do we combat um, crippling anxiety or
mm,
overactive stress, because we're not
mm,
supposed to, our minds are not supposed to be running 5 million miles an hour. So
yeah.
I'm basically coming up with my new project is something that helps women specifically. I never want to like say like not men because I would love to help the fellas as well, but help
Uh-huh.
them basically control or just master stress and anxiety,
Mm,
potentially maybe even in a challenged form or like a course as well, but being able to take back the reins and be in the driver's seat, so where you're the one dictating your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and then
mm,
basically ways to regulate your nervous system to get you more in a peaceful state. Because I can even
mm,
say I've done the work and I am not stressed, I'm not anxious. Yes, life still gets to me, but
mm,
there are ways that I've been able to, tangible ways that I've been able to practice to get me to this headspace to where I'm not as pressed as I used to be. And I want everybody to get here because some
mm,
people are even taking medication for it. So it's like, what if we used our bodies and the minds God gave us to combat all of these things, to be medication free, to just be peaceful? Because we can pray our anxiety away all we want, but it always comes right back, So why not use the
mm.
tools that He actually gave us that some people don't realize are tools? So that's one thing that I am working on. And just to follow for more, to learn more so that I can help and add you to the group and all of that. But that's like a vague, a broad um, statement for that. So thank you for asking.
Yes, of course. But people can follow you and follow your
Mhm.
page to stay updated, to get all of the links
Yes.
that they need, right?
Yes, absolutely,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Awesome. At Chocolate Boss Babe. Where did that name come from?
Oh man, I honestly, it's so funny. I honestly don't know. I didn't want to be boss babe or like boss baddie, but I gotta like throw something in there that was my like my blackness. So I was like, well, chocolate, and then chocolate boss babe.
I
So
love it. I love that so much.
yes,
Okay, well,
yes.
we will be looking out for this because at my anxiety, as you can see, anxiety is unfortunately trending, but I feel like anxiety has been trending for a long time. So I know that we
That's
are
so
all,
funny.
looking forward to this course. And stress, you know what I mean?
Yes.
We need to just take some time, reset,
Breathe.
because we got to
Yes.
be prepared for, what I mean, for what's coming. So,
Amen. And before
um,
last thing, I'm so sorry. If you are
okay.
interested in the course, the challenge, whatnot, just DM me ready, and I will send you the link to get on to the course or the wait list at least. So that's one thing I forgot. But DM ready, and then I'll just send it over.
Nice. So y'all heard it here from Chocolate Boss Babes. DM her ready. You know what I mean? So that you can get first dibs on the course. Oh, that's awesome and exciting.
Excited. I'm so excited. And I'm so
Yeah.
thankful that you had me on. 'Cause this is so much fun.
Yeah.
We got to do this again. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, there we go. Oh, hold on 1 second. Oh no,
Okay,
there we
there we
go.
go. There we go. It just reset a little bit. But yes, yes. No, thank you for coming on. I really needed this myself. Like I was
Me
feeling like so
too.
down. But I appreciate you coming on, just being such a bright light. And yeah, just offering so much, so many tools. I know that, everybody's going to be able to learn from it. So just as what do they say, housekeeping, I'm going to keep this live up. I usually keep it up for a day on my Instagram page, and then I post it on YouTube. So y'all can check it out.
Yes.
At youtube.com/@me-a-halt-tv. But yeah, I will direct people there as well. So thank you so much. Enjoy your day. I hope that,
Yes.
we can do this again soon. Definitely keep
We
me
will.
posted on, everything that you're doing. I'm rooting for you.
Oh,
Continue to
thank
glow,
you.
girl.
Thank you. You too, Mia. Thank you again for having me. This was an absolute pleasure and a boost to my week. It's been a
Um,
long one already. So I thank you so
uh,
much for us meeting a couple of weeks ago, which is crazy.
all
So
right,
it
right,
worked
right.
out. It worked
Awesome.
out.
Well, thank you. Take
Yes,
care.
yes. God bless, guys. You too. See ya.
All right, bye bye. Bye, y'all.